Hey everyone, it's Kay from KS Anonymous, and I am back today with another episode of r/AITA or r/AmITheA. Now, I haven't seen a whole lot of people doing these, but I personally enjoy them, so I hope that you will too. I am a librarian at a pre-K through 12 school. I lead one class every period with the younger kids, and high schoolers are free to use the library at any time during the day. For any women that teach small kids, you know that they grab your boobs. A lot. It's not intentional, my boobs are just eye level for the kids, and they often use them for balance or to get my attention. They don't realize what they're doing. Usually I just say, "Watch your hands," or gently move their hands away, but I don't get mad because they're little and they don't understand that they're doing something wrong. One day, I was crouched down next to a 6-year-old helping him find a book. He stumbled and grabbed my chest. Again, not a big deal, but one of the 17-year-olds in the library saw it happened and yelled, "Looks like Miss AITA is letting the boys cop a feel." I went up to him and told him he was being inappropriate and threatened detention and all that, and he gets lippy, his friends were watching, and reaches out and grabs my boob. I could tell from his face that he knew he messed up as he did it, and I took him straight to the office. The principal tore him a new one, and then we discussed it for a bit and decided that a 3-day suspension and a call home was appropriate, since the kid was clearly scared, crapless, and seemed to both of us to be more of a smart mouth than a danger to students or other teachers. The suspension will also have to be reported to colleges, which is what my now ex-fiance took issue with. I told my fiance about it that night, and he didn't react as expected. He said that the high schooler was just a kid who clearly didn't realize what he was doing, and it was a double standard to punish him and not punish the younger kids for the same infraction. I pushed back because I think there's a huge difference between being 6 and being 17, and he accused me of being an unfair teacher who was targeting a student because I weighed in on the punishment, and therefore he wasn't treated impartially. He also told me that this being on the kid's record was too harsh and he didn't deserve to be marked forever for a joke. I pointed out he should know better, but he just doubled down on telling me I should learn to take a joke and laugh it off and not be such a bee. I tried to discuss it several times, but he wouldn't budge, and I felt incredibly unsupported and hurt, so I decided to break off the engagement. His friends have been reaching out and accusing me of being unfair and rash. AITA? Honestly, I don't think that she's the a-hole. I think her fiance is kind of an a-hole because there is a very big difference between 6 years and 17 years. But that's my opinion. I want to know your opinion about this one in the comments below. For the background, I was in the second row of coach for a very long flight. The row in front of me was the bulkhead, so they had a ton of legroom and no one in front of them where they would need to recline to recover their own space from a recliner in front of them. Traditionally, I jam a water bottle in the gap between my tray table and the seat so that the recline mechanism doesn't work to prevent the person in front of me from spending the flight in my lap. It's perfect because it gives them about half an inch of recline and then stops, so generally they assume that's all the chair does and stop trying after a few pushes. I like to use my lap tray, and frankly I think reclining on a flight is incredibly rude and would never consider reclining myself, especially if it's in coach and not a red-eye. AITA for secretly forcing good manners upon my seatmates? On this one, I'm gonna have to say yeah. I didn't even know this was a thing, personally. That people felt like you shouldn't use the recline option on your seat. And to force someone to have good manners, that is a very interesting phrase. I'm not a fan of it. So what are your thoughts? Let me know in the comments below. I've known John for a little over 4 years, and I would consider him to be one of my closest friends. About 2.5 years ago, he introduced us to Jane. It was very clear that he had feelings for Jane, and honestly, I thought that they were dating for the first few months after meeting her. But it soon became pretty obvious that she did not have feelings for John, and they were just friends. Jane is a very awesome person and became part of our friend group. I would say that Jane and I are friends, although we never hung out without being with a group of people. While John never really got over his crush on Jane, it had seemed like he had moved on, as he has dated multiple girls over the past couple years, although he is currently single. This brings us to last week. I was just getting off work and I stopped by the bar on my way home to grab a beer. At the bar, I ran into Jane and her roommates. They were celebrating her roommate getting a promotion at work. Jane invited me to join them, and I obliged. After a while, her roommates wanted to go to another bar, and Jane said she wanted to go back home and invited me to go back to her place to smoke. I agreed, and then we went back to her house. When we got to her place, she kissed me, and we ended up sleeping together. I don't know if Jane told John or how he found out so fast, but the next evening I got a call from John and he was really angry at me, calling me an a-hole and telling me that I don't respect him and that I did this to hurt him. He then asked me what my intentions were with Jane. I told him that I didn't mean for him to get hurt and I didn't know that I was going to pursue anything more with Jane, that we were drunk, and it just happened. He hasn't talked to me since. On one hand, I can understand why John is so angry and hurt, but on the other, he has liked Jane for years and she does not feel the same way about him. If something was going to happen between them, it would have happened already. I kind of feel like Jane and I had a real connection and want to see where this goes, but I also don't want to lose a close friend over this. So, am I the a-hole for sleeping with my friend's crush? Edit. I just talked to Jane. One of Jane's roommates took a Snapchat of all of us that night and John saw it. He called Jane and asked why I was out with them. She told him we ran into each other. Apparently, he's known she has liked me for a while now, which I had no idea, and he asked if anything happened between us, and she told him yes. He freaked out on her worse than me. He has been sending her melodramatic messages all week. Anyways, we have a date this weekend. So on this one, I don't really think he is, if John has moved on and had other relationships and everything, to me it's not fair for him to say like you can't ever date this girl, but I understand that some people feel differently about that, so let me know what your thoughts are on sleeping with his best friend's crush. So, a little bit of background. My mother and my stepdad recently purchased a property in my city where my mother plans on living in a tiny house. However, in addition to the tiny house, she would need a permanent address, as well as a place to do laundry, shower, and store her things. Also, when it gets too cold in the winter, she would live there. So, my parents have been looking for a suitable place. It ought to be ideally freshly renovated for a really low price. So far, they haven't had much luck. Today, my mother called me to make me an offer. She wants to come to my place to shower and do laundry 3 times a week and live here a maximum of 2 months per year. In exchange, she wants to give me her expensive new living room furniture and a new kitchen, which are things she insists on having in my flat even though I have a kitchen and furniture which I would have to throw out. Also, because my flat is not up to her standards, she wants to renovate it, put in new tiles, paint, etc. Now, we did not intend on renovating the flat and also don't need furniture. However, in exchange for these things, she would like to have my boyfriend's current bedroom rent-free for the first 9 months and then pay 50% at the beginning of next year. Now, if my boyfriend and I had intended to renovate the flat and needed new furniture, this would be a great deal, but honestly, living in a pile of rubble for months while they renovate my flat and then having my mother come live with us for 2 months in the winter just doesn't strike me as a good deal. My boyfriend and I love living alone, since this is the first time we are able to live without additional roommates. Also, our flat is quite small, and my mother does not work, which means in the winter she might be here for 2 months constantly. She also wants to bring her cat, who is used to being outside 12 hours a day, and she can't go outside where we live. I thought my parents would understand that the deal they were offering me just wasn't that good for me. Yes, the furniture is expensive, but I don't need expensive furniture, and I can live in this flat without fresh paint on the walls. However, when I told them no just now, they said that they were extremely disappointed, because they apparently thought I would jump at this offer. Now I feel like I'm being harsh by telling them I don't want to live with my mother, even if it is only 2 months a year tops. So, AITA? So, I don't think that she's really being the a-hole in this situation. Her mom wants to live in a tiny house, but doesn't want to make the sacrifices necessary to do that. So she kind of wants the best of both worlds. It's kind of beyond me why you would want to live in a tiny house if you're not okay with the effects of living in a tiny house. But beyond that, to expect her daughter to just let her live there and do these things and really just make her an offer that almost only benefits her and her will isn't really fair at all, so I really don't find the daughter to be the a-hole in this situation. But as always with all of these, I want to hear who you think the a-hole is in the comments below. And that's actually going to end this video for today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, go ahead and drop a like and subscribe if you want to hear more from me. I'll see you in the next video. Bye!